Hello everyone, my name is Michael and welcome to another episode in the Selenium tutorial series. In this episode, what we will do is we will see how we can scrape a website that has infinite scrolling. And what happens is when I scroll down, and as you can see, it has multiple items. So each infinite scrolling box is basically an item or an element. So whenever I scroll to the bottom of the page, it will load 10 more like those items. And there is multiple of websites that do the same thing, like Facebook Marketplace or Reddit or even TikTok does that. So whenever you scroll down or YouTube recommendations, it keeps loading more and more products or more and more items. So what we would like to do is create a script which we can give it an item's total amount. So we can say we need, for example, to scrape 1000 items or 10,000 items or 100 items, and we can tell the script to keep scrolling down until it reaches that amount, and maybe for the end we can save the items locally. So let's go on code and see how we can do that. So first of all, let's create a new file and name it infinite underscore scrolling.py, and here let's copy paste a demo from main.py file, which you can find this code or the whole folder in my GitHub repository down the description. So yeah, let's create a demo first of all, like this one right here. And first of all, we need to replace this URL with our infinite scrolling demo. There we go. So now the next thing we need to do is initialize some values that we will use. So the first value is the actual items or elements. I'll name it items. And basically that will be an empty array. Next, we need to store the last height of our page. Now I'll explain why we need to do that in a little bit. And that will be equal to our current page height. Now every time we scroll to the bottom of the page, we will update that with the latest height. And again, I'll explain a little bit how we will use it. Next, what we want to do is create another value which we can change. So we can say item and then target count. And like I said before, we will give our script a target count for our items. So for example, we can say the script to scrape 1000 items. And why we are not getting all of the items is most likely our website will never stop showing you more content. Now, if it does, that's why we'll use that, and I'll explain how we will use it in a little bit. But if it never stops showing you content like YouTube recommendations or TikTok, then the only way to somehow stop the script eventually is to set a target. Otherwise, what will end up happening is we will finish out of RAM memory and basically our browser will crash. So that's why we want to set a target amount. Now you can test that, so you can test the limits, but for our example, we will just set it to 100. Now the next thing we need to do is create a while loop, and here we will check when our item target count is actually hit. So what we can do is say item target count bigger than the length of our items. So what we are basically saying is while our target count is bigger than the items, keep scrolling down and get the new elements. Now the first thing we need to do is scroll down. So to do that we can say browser, and then we will execute a script, and we will say window. So basically it's our window, our browser, and then we say scroll to, and then first of all we will define 0, and the next parameter is the height of our page. So what we are saying is scroll to the height of your page, basically to the bottom of the page. Scroll until you reach the bottom of the page. Now the next thing we have to do is set a timeout. So we will say time.sleep, and then we can say 1. And why we do that is because every time we scroll to the bottom of the page, we need to give our script some time to load the new elements. Actually, we need to give the website some time to load the new elements. So how we do that is by setting a timeout. Now, you have to adjust your timeout based on how fast you get new results on your website, But also there is better way to do that. Maybe you can check the current item length, and then once the current item length is bigger than the previous item length, then you can continue. But that's too complicated, so I'll just leave it to that for now. Then the next thing we need to do is get the new height, or we can say, actually we just copy this, so our last height, and then we can update that with our new height. And what we would like to do is we can say if our new height is our last height, we can break the script. And why we do that is for those websites that when you keep scrolling down, eventually they will stop showing you more items. So for those kind of websites, you can utilize that. Now, if that doesn't happen with your website, you can just remove that, but it doesn't hurt having it. So yeah. Next, what we will do is update our last height. So if that's not true and we don't break the script, then we will just update our last height with our new height, so we can check it the next time as well. And then now what we will do is scrap the new elements. Basically, we don't scrap just the new elements, but we scrap all the elements that are visible, so have that in mind. So we can say elements equals to, and then browser.findElements, and we will use the CSS selector for each element. So let me show you how we can find that. So we can go on an element, right click, and then click inspect, and right here each element has its own box, as you see right here. So what we can do is right click and then click copy and then copy selector. And if we go back, we can copy paste our selector and we can remove that. Now that only defines which element our element is. So this is the element 7. Now we don't need that. So what we are basically doing here is we are saying find all the elements that match our CSS selector. And yeah, that's basically it. Then for each element, we want to grab the contents of our element. In our case, we just want to get the text of our element. But in your case, you can grab the title, for example, of an article in Reddit. You can grab the description and many other stuff. And I'll explain how to do that in a little bit. So in our example, as I said, we will run a for loop in our elements. And we also have to define another value. So we can say text and then elements and then leave it to that. Actually, yeah, we have to do that. And then we will say text elements dot append, and then we will get the text of that element. Now, if you want to get multiple different stuff, then you can say, for example, title equals to, and then you can get the element, basically the whole box, and then run another query selector, or basically the find element, and you can get basically the title like that. Now that's not exactly how you get it, that's just an example. And then instead of doing that, you can basically append an object. So you can just define the object and then define the title, something like that. Now in our case, we will not do that, but that's how you will do it when you need multiple information per element. So let's remove that. And then after we get the text for each element, then we want to update our items with our updated items. So we'll say items equals to, and then our text elements. And basically that's all we have to do. So let's test it out. So after our while true is finished, at the end we can say print, and then we can print the items, and we can also print the length of the items. So we make sure we actually got our target amount. So let's run our script. Now you can either click this button right here if you have Visual Studio Code, or you can run Python infinite_scrolling.py in your command line. And yeah, let's run it. And as you will see, we will first visit the website, and then the script will keep scrolling down and get the new items until it reaches 100 items. Then it will stop scrolling down, and then it will display the items right here. So as you see, we got all the items, so infinite scroll box 1 until 100. And we also got the length of our items, our array, which is 100, so that's great. Now finally, what I would like to do as a finished touch, we can save those elements or those items in our JSON file. So let's see how we can do that. That's really easy. So what we can do is we can say JSON.dump, and then we pass as our first parameter our items, and then as our second parameter we will open our items.json file, and if we don't have one it will create it automatically, and then it will dump the contents of our items, so basically the array, into this file right here. So let's test it out by running the script again. And as you see, once the script finishes, if we go back on our items.json file which is created, if we format the file, as you can see, we have all our power items saved on our items.json file. So yeah, that's it for this video. Let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see next. Also hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any of my future videos. Also make sure to join our new Discord server down in the description, where I'm trying to build a community so we can help each other. So yeah, with that said, see you in the next video.